one off.
Okay.
Okay, now you're live.
I do not know where my other phone is. It's still in the car. Hello. Well, it is a short one tonight. We were down in Gatlinburg and up in Anakeesta, and it was a huge crowd, and we weren't expecting that, and it took longer to get down and through traffic. I've never seen traffic like that. There's been a lot of traffic in Gatlinburg, but there has been traffic on the bypass, like I saw today. And there has not been traffic on the streets like I saw today. Everybody is here for the leaf change. And that's exciting for business and for everything that's going on. Is that my eyes or my glasses? I can't tell. I guess my glasses are all right. And so tonight, being last minute, I decided to do a teaching on a video in case I couldn't make it home. I want to save that for next week. And next week, we're going to do a interesting thing with in Gatlinburg for Friday night and Saturday. So this week, now that I'm home and had a little bit of oatmeal, something to get me past the moment and the stress of driving through the country and mountains, here I am. So I've decided to call it It's All Greek to Me. Joy and I, when we first went to Bible college together, we started out in Indiana, and we took a class on Greek. And we still have the original folders, and unfortunately the teacher passed on by now. But he was very good. His name was Brad Butler, and it was World Harvest Bible College, or I think it was called Indiana University after that. He did a great job of making Greek real, how to use it. And you know what was important? It's not just that the New Testament was written in Greek, but it's understanding that why it was written in Greek, which I've told you many times, because of the language that Greek is. Greek has no interpretation. Every single word that's in Greek that has another meaning is spelled differently. So every word has a different spelling. Every meaning has a different spelling. Everything. You can't accidentally mistranslate Greek. Now, there are some people that say there are the Hellenists, and then there are the ones, the original Greek, and then there's the Hellenist, and then there's this and that, and there's some variations in there. But the Thayer's Greek lexicon does take that into account. It actually says in here, in the definitions, if there is an older, it'll say this definition goes all the way back to, Plato, Socrates, the roots of Greek literature and antiquity. So when I went to the Greek class, that really helped me, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist of a painter, but I'm also that person that always says, why? And that's kind of the point of tonight, is to answer the why. And for some of you, you may have a why about a word in the Bible. You might say, why is this word here? Or why is it like this? And what I was thinking of was, where in the Bible do we know that a word is translated two different ways, but it sounds the same? So we can go to the Gospels, and let's see. This is how we study a word. All right, so let's study the word love. So we go into the Strong's Concordance first, and we go to L, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, J, K, L, L, I, L, O, L, O, F, L, O, V. L, O, V will be the end of L, O, and there's quite a few pages of Lord, page after page. But then after that, it quickly dies out. So let's work. Then we want a New Testament word, love. And this is where we're going to start narrowing it down. Now, for me, for you, you may have remembered where Jesus said, Peter, do you love me? 3 times. I would like to go, oh, why is that? Peter, do you love me? Feed my lambs. Peter, do you love me? Feed my sheep. Peter, do you love me? Now, it never made sense to me when I heard that. So in Greek class, I think that was probably the first place. That was one of the things that we had fun with in the Greek class when we were in Bible college, was we were asking these questions. So since the word love is throughout the Bible, but we know that Peter, do you love me was said in the Gospels by Jesus, then all we have to do is go into the Strong's Concordance. So here's how to study. You go into the Strong's Concordance and you find the word you want, such as I do, is love. Then you know that you're going to go to Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you remember in your mind that Jesus said this to Peter after his resurrection. So it's going to be the last couple verses of either Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. So if I look at the last verses, that would be like Matthew, beyond Matthew 24, uppermost rooms, iniquity. Nope, not there. So in Mark, we look at his last verses. I don't see it there. Luke. So in Luke, we want to go to the last chapters. I don't see it in the last chapters of Luke, so it must be John. And I should see the name Peter. Okay, so it wasn't at the end. I'm actually looking for the word Peter because he says, Peter, do you love me 3 times? So there should be 3 times I see the word Peter. And I don't. Love thy neighbor. Uppermost rooms of the feast. So now I'm looking through all of the word love in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Am I in the wrong column? No. All right. So now I am looking in the Strong's, under love. If man loves me, he will keep my commandments. My Father will love him, and we will come to him. I remember that one. This is my commandment, that you love one another. This is very interesting. This is very interesting because it is not here. Well, you'd think I was learning to spell love correctly here, but it's of thy neighbor, salutations, sinners, love your enemies, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. We are going through all of the areas. Love one another. If you're my disciples, you will love one another. If a man loves me, commandments, I abide in him. This is my commandment. All right. For some reason, this was in the Gospels. So,
no, it's in the epistles.
It's got to be in Acts then, isn't it? No.
No, you're right. Jesus said it, so it's in the Gospels.
Jesus said it, but so it has to be in the Gospels, but it's not. It's not in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Under love. We'll figure this out. Why it's not there. Let's look for another way to find this. There's loved, loves, loveth, lover, lonely. There are other loves. So, for he who loves his father or mother more than he loveth me. So it's not there. Loveth. Well, this is kind of fun in itself to break this down, because, this is what you want to do when you have a question. You want to find it and get it answered. And it's not under loved. It's not under loveth. Okay. How else can we find it? Let's see. I rather doubt proper names are in here. I don't think they are. That would take up too much space. But these are just scriptures, but we'll try real quick. Oh, yeah, here we go. Peter. All right. So let's look at the end of Matthew. All right, so now I'm under the word Peter. In Matthew, didn't find it in Matthew. Okay. Now I'm in Mark. Peter warming himself, either surely cock crow. Peter, James, John. And Peter said. This is where Jesus said the cock will crow. It's because it was under lovethst. That's why it was not under love. So we are going to John 21:15, because it wasn't under love, it was under loveth thou me. So I didn't get to the loveth. Let me go back to loveth. Nope, I never got to loveth. That was the next page. Oh, John, yep. If you loveth me, keep. There it is, right there in the Strong's under love, ETH, loveth. All right, so that's fun.
The King James.
And King James. Okay, so I said John 21, right? Yes. Dun, 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 dun. Now, we're going to go to the Interlinear Bible.
This is how he studies the Bible.
And so I go to John. John 21. And actually, I don't need to go to the Linear Bible, but I'm doing it because this is the easiest way. So now that we know that it's John 21, we go to John 21 and we look up that particular verse. Let me go back there. It was John. Let's see. No. Here we go. John 21:15. So John 21:15. That's when Jesus spoke, broke bread, and said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these? And Simon said to him, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, Feed my lambs. Again, Jesus says to him, second time, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? And Peter says to him, Yes, Lord, you know that I love you. He said to him, and Jesus said, Shepherd my sheep. Thirdly, Jesus said to him, Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? Peter was grieved now. Like, yeah, I would be too. Like, all right, I've answered this question. Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me? Peter was grieved, and he said to him a third time, when he said, Peter was grieved because he said to him a third time, do you love me? And he said to him, and Peter said to him, Lord, you know everything and perceive all things. You know that I love you, with an exclamation point. And Jesus said to him, Feed my sheep. Didn't make sense to me. Why would he say it 3 times? What was the point of 3 times? I never even heard anybody tackle this in a teaching until I looked it up in the Greek. Now, this is why you have to have the interlinear Bible right there with no reflection coming off of it. There we go. Hopefully it's not backwards on your screen. It's backwards on mine.
No, it's fine.
Okay. That one. All right. So then when I go to John 15, I look for the word lovest, L-O-V. Let me spell that for you again in case you're taking notes, which I know some of you someday, somewhere will. That's L-O-V-E-T-H. Okay, L-O-V-E-T-H. No. Wait. I missed that. There's no S in that one. It's L-O-V-E-S-T. L-O-V-E-S-T. Lovest thou me? I'm sure you recognize that. Peter, lovest thou me? Okay, so that's what it is. L-O-V-E-S-T. All right. Now, you've got that. Now, in the dictionary here, it says G25 for the first time, G25 for the second time, and G5368 for the third time. Isn't that interesting? Now, that's the Strong's saying that there are 2 numbers. But if you look in the interlinear, in verse 15, you look for the word lovest thou me, Simon Jonah, do you love me more than these? So that's the first time he says it. Now, under that one, it is number 25, which agrees with the Strong's. Number 25, and it's spelled with an A and an S squiggle at the end. Then he says, you know that I love you. But that is a completely different number. That's 5368. Jesus said to him, Feed my lambs. Then he says to him again, second time, Simon Jonah, son of Jonah, do you love me? And again, the number of that word is 25, and the spelling is the same. I think I'm looking here at the spelling. D-A-Y-A-P-I-A-S, D-A-Y-A-P-I-A-S. Yep, exact same spelling. Okay. And then the third time, he says to him, third time, do you love me? And then that number is 5368. All right. So now how this mystery, 25 and 5368, is answered in the lexicon. So the lexicon, you go to the very beginning to the number 25. Now you might think we're almost done here, but oh no. You might think, oh, we just look up the number 25 and there's the definition of love. No. You see, the number 25 is the definition of love everywhere in the New Testament. All right, so if you look here, right here, number 25 is about the length of a column down this side and down this side of the page. So there's one column basically split between 2 pages. Excuse me. All right, now that is not the end, because I have to take my little index card here and I have to look for the definition of love in general, but then the definition of love in John 21, 15, 16, and 17. So I start at the beginning of love and I look for the word John, or in this case, JN. So I scroll down under the number 25. Now, number 25, the general definition to love, to be full of goodwill and exhibit the same to others. And it says, First John and Luke and all these different places have these: to wish well, to regard a well and farewell on someone, things like that. So, but now that's the general one. So now there's a list of everywhere the scripture is. And I can tell you, I just read them off: John, Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 1st in Ephesians, in John, and it's some of them. It even has some descriptions here of love of man towards Christ, love of man towards God, love of God towards man, benevolence of God, God's providing salvation. Lots of different definitions of love. But you have to scroll down until you find John 21. Here's John 3, John 10:17, John 15. Okay, it's not there. So you have to look for John 21. So John 21, we've got Matthew, Romans, Corinthians, James, Peter, 1 John. So that wasn't it, because now we're already at the end of the Bible. So we'll go back. Here's John 17:43, Luke, John 3:19, John 3:16. It even says heart set on earthly objects, earthly things, and earthly joys. Isn't that interesting? 1 Peter, 2 Timothy, and I have not looked this up ahead of time to make sure it was here. So I am scrolling down with you and hoping to find, here we go. And we want John, basically it's Roman numeral, so it's going to be John XX1, which would be 21. Oh, don't let me down. Don't let me down, Mr. Lexicon. I am coming to the bottom of number 25. And it's not there. Let's see, John 3. I need John XX. I bet I missed it. There's John 17, 13. That's why I use my index card, because it's so easy to miss it as you go by. I must have missed it. Luke, John, 1 John, Matthew, John 5. There's John 11. I want to know how I missed it. Okay, 1 Peter and elsewhere. Okay, there's a general one here, which must cover that one, because maybe spelling them all out was just too much room or unnecessary. All right, so the definition, according to this, says from John, of the love of Christians towards one another, the benevolence which God, in providing salvation for men, is exhibited by sending his Son to them and giving him up for death. That's kind of like the long version. So, if I was to translate that, I would translate that, Peter, do you understand the benevolence of God by providing salvation for men as exhibited by sending his Son to give himself up in death as a sacrifice for them? So, Peter, do you understand the love of the love and benevolence of God in providing salvation for men? And so he wasn't saying, do you love me? He was saying, do you love God? Do you love me? He was saying, and that is my best understanding of that. Sometimes you can miss a translation because it will say John 1 chapter, and then right after that it'll say several more chapters, but you can kind of skip over them because there's no JN in front of it. And so I've got John 4, John 5, Romans, 1 Peter. I'm going to just check real close again. John 12:43 and John 3:19. John. Yeah, I mean, it's like even John 3:16. Okay, there it is. Revelation, 1 Peter. I'm not sure why it's not here, but okay, we can look further into this. I'm going to find out, let me tell you. I'll figure out where this is, which I usually do, and I have figured these out over the times. But why John 21 is not under that number? Because this says, as a matter of fact, you know what? That's one good thing about the Thayers, and this is what I find fun about studying, is that this is part of the fun. This is part of the challenge to look up what you're trying to accomplish and find it and get a peace in your heart about what's going on. So let's go back to the actual Greek dictionary that's in the Strong's. Every Strong's Concordance, if you get the big one, will have the Greek dictionary of words in the back. Now, it's not as good as the Thayers because it only says a few, the major ones, whereas the Thayers will tell you everything. But let's go to G25, which is
John 21, verse what?
John 21, verse 15. And, all right. So the number was G25, right? So let's look up G25. And it says, agape, perhaps from agapen, compared to 5689, which is the other number we haven't looked up yet, to love in a social or moral sense. So it is, now we know that agape love is God's love. But this is saying here is agapio, which is a social or in a social or moral sense, love. To love in a social or moral sense. So then 5689. Let's go to 5689, which is the other love in here. Okay, so that's the absolute other end of the book. Isn't that interesting that the smaller the number, the older the word, or the older the use of it? And the larger the number, the more recent. 5689, right? Yeah. 5689. 5689. All right. 5649. 51. Oh, we're still a ways away. 52. 53. That's too far. 56. We are in 56, and we are heading for 89. 5623, 5624. Oh, wouldn't that be funny if the dictionary ran out before we got to 5689? It does. It actually stops at 5624. Isn't that amazing? 5619. Am I reading this right? I'm reading it right. Okay, so let's go back to the Greek dictionary in the Strong's Concordance, because if they put 5689 in the front, it's got to be in the back. And now we're just getting past the maps, because it's going to be right after the maps. And 55, 56, 24. Well, looky there. That must be a problem, because theirs stops at 5624 too, even though they gave me a number 5689. All right. But you know what? Let's get another reference out. Let's go back to John 21 and verse 17, where he says the third time, Peter, do you love me? And it says 5368. All right. That says 5368. I bet you we'll have much more success for that. So let's go back to 5368. Because I am determined with you not to look extremely foolish, but I don't mind. Because if I don't mind, then you won't mind. And if you won't mind, you will continue to pursue it and say, I don't care what it looks like. I want the answer. I don't care what people think. 53. Oh, it's a big one. All right. 5368. To love. Friendly love. To be friendly to someone is the general one. It is a love founded and springs from faith. To love, to delight in, to long for. A thing. So, index card. Let's see if we can get John 21 out of this group. Won't that be fun? So it says the root word is to love, to be friendly to someone. And then in a different spelling, in a different place, in Revelation, Matthew, John 5, it's talking about a different ending, which is added, which is love founded in and springing from faith. To love, to delight in, to long for, to long for a thing. Oh, I love pizza. Oh, I love the beach. Oh, I love my house. All right, so it's desirous, deserving one. There are, and the opposites. All right, so we are looking for JNXXI 17. JN. Oh, and by the way, this does give, the first one is to love. The second one is to kiss. The third one is the distinction. As to the distinction between the two words, it is love founded on admiration, veneration, and esteem. I'll bet you that's where we're going to find John 21. Veneration and esteem denotes inclination prompted by a sense of emotion. Let's pass up all the crazy squiggly lines, which someone would recognize as words, but I don't. I just stick with the English I just stick with the basic. I look for the JNXXI. JNXI. There it is. JNXXI. About 80% down the page. Now in the lexicon, it says the number after the definition. So it basically says the definition. Love is this, and then in the Bible it is found in this place, this place, this place. So let's back up. I just found John XXI 15 through 17. Okay. It says, as further aid in judging the difference between two words, comparing the passages, even in some cases where they might appear to be used interchangeably, the difference can still be traced. Oh, so it's actually describing here to help you understand why there's three loves there. From what has been said, it is evident that this spelling of love is not and cannot be used as sexual love, but it can be used occasionally by later writers, including Pluto and some other ones. So, that means that, see how they're using the history of the word love in Greek as sympathy. And then the thesaurus, blah, 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 blah. All these people that agree on that. So let's back up to where we started. All right. So, as a distinction between the former and the virtue of its connection with love, properly denotes love founded on admiration, veneration, and esteem. It denotes an inclination prompted by emotion. More Greek words. Hence, men have said God is love. God is not, whatever that word is. Christ bids us because love as an emotion cannot be commanded, but only love as a choice. Wisdom says, as further aid, that was Proverbs 8:17. As further said, by judging the difference between two words, compare the following passages. And what they've done is they've studied the word out in the Greek even further to show us what was being said by the writer, and that the writer is not speaking in terms of sexual love at all, even though later writers in history did denote that. But I'm not quite putting all that together. So this is what's fun about the Greek, because you're seeing the main is properly denotes love founded on admiration, veneration, and esteem. So that takes care of the third time he said, Peter, do you love me? And then, so if you would translate that, like, I don't know why translators don't even get close to this. Maybe the words feed my sheep and feed my lambs would clue me in on that, but I'm not going to get into that with you. That would be something you could look up if you still want to find out further that might bring into context what he's saying. But basically, the third, Peter, do you love me, denotes an esteem. An inclination prompted by emotion, a love founded on admiration, veneration, and esteem, basically is what it's saying. And it's also saying, just before that, it's saying love cannot be commanded. But that's in their definition. They're talking about because love is an emotion and cannot be commanded, it is a love by choice. Interesting. So I'm understanding that the third time Jesus says, Peter, do you love me? He's saying, Peter, do you honor and esteem me? Is your love honoring and esteeming and venerating and prompted by a sense of emotion? What was that? Admiration, veneration, and esteem. Okay, and then on 25, we'll go back quick. Way back to 25, which said, love in a social or moral sense. So he's saying in Peter, do you love me in a moral or social sense? Peter, do you love me? Do you love me like everybody else? Do you love me like in a social, moral, like I'm just a good friend, a friend of the family? That kind of love. Social or moral sense. And it also says, beloved is another definition of that word, beloved. Was he saying, Peter, am I beloved? Am I your beloved? That's pretty interesting. Peter, am I your beloved?
You're after 10 o'clock.
Oh, good. So we've got that. So we made it. We made it. So, Peter, am I your beloved? Peter, do you love me like family? And then the third time would be, Peter, do you esteem me, venerate me, and love me as your God? That's interesting. So there you go. And that is, we're going to just call these sessions, it's all Greek to me. And depending on the feedback I get, I may never do this again, or I might do this again. I think we could be more successful with some other thing. I thought I was tackling something simple, because I want to be just as excited as you. I was thinking I could look this up ahead of time. Maybe I could study this out. We were late. I didn't have a chance to do that. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to wing this and say, let's try this. And I felt that was the one to look at. I'm not discouraged at all because I've always had that curiosity. Peter, do you love me? 3 times. Why was he saying that? But he was basically saying, am I your beloved? Do you love me like family? Or do you love me as your God? As with full veneration, full honors, do you love me as your God? And that would be a question we have to ask ourselves. Are we just casually loving Jesus? Are we just casually as like he's a member of the family? Yeah, he's here. Bible's on the, Jesus is here. See, the family Bible's on the coffee table. He's here. Or do you love him esteemed, lifted higher, adored, showing him love him as your God? And wow, that's pretty strong. So if you can pray a simple prayer and say, Jesus, I've loved you like a friend. I've loved you like family. I want to love you like God. Come into my heart, live inside of me, change me on the inside, and help me to love you as my God and my Savior. There's a lot of people that have Jesus as their Savior, but not as their Lord, not in charge of their life. And, that could be part of why he was saying that, You're loving me like a friend, you're loving me like family, but do you love me like the God who's in charge of your life? And ask yourself that question. That's good. So here we go, and we made it, and I love you very much. Thank you so much for coming in tonight. Thank you for stopping in. Thank you for being my friend, and we'll see you next time.